I've been asked by CAB to put together a series of workshops, this being the second of them, that would talk about in different kinds of ways how people could use writing in the sciences. Since I'm not an expert in writing in the sciences and I'm not even a scientist, right, I thought the best thing to do would be to go to people who have been using it for quite some time to start to think about ways that we could start to share the nuts and bolts strategies for integrating writing into our courses in useful kinds of ways, to work with writing in different kinds of ways in our classes themselves, in class activities, and then to try to respond to it. All keeping in mind that writing is a labor-intensive task and thus needs to be sustainable, however we choose to use it. So I've got some worksheets up here, some different kinds of models of things that people have put together. The last one was on writing and technology and using technology to decrease the paper load. So I encourage you all to grab this stuff, one of each, before you leave today. But what we're going to try to do today is I'm going to give a kind of a brief overview of where we're coming from, and then I'll ask our three presenters to go through the kinds of nuts and bolts that they use in their classes. The goal of this, of course, is just to instigate some conversation among us. I think it'd be best if we left some time at the end, and maybe even as questions come up, just shoot your hand up, really. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're after here. So people can walk through how they use writing, what they're trying to accomplish, and so on. Most of the courses that have submitted and have said, yes, I am going to be a WI course, are at the lower level. They're at the 200 level. There are several that are at the 300 level. The requirement for capstones for each of the pathways is that those also be WI courses. A WI course is also in the foundation, in English 130, or other courses like Journalism 130, which is just beginning as well. So that's where you see the location of those WIs. But they're not as numerous as they could be. I think mostly because of the budget realities that we were just talking about and the mandate that these courses reach some kind of cap of 20 rather than 30 or 35 or 40 or 50. People have shied away, I think, for real reasons. For real and significant reasons. They say, under those kinds of circumstances, we can't afford to offer them. So what we've been trying to do, what I've done last semester and the beginning of this semester, is try to reach out and adjudicate these kinds of conversations, because on the one hand, you see faculty saying, I would love to have a 20 cap. And you see chairs saying, we can't do that. It's not possible. Yes. So yes, so capstones in majors can be used as substitutions for a capstone in GE. Similar kinds of things might go on with writing in those courses. I mean, already we have a system of capstones across campuses across colleges where students are asked to use writing to synthesize the work they've done previously, to present it in some kind of way, to work on some kind of project or something like that. Yes.
For writing proficiency, and that goes through a different process to get that WP designation, correct?
Yes, but in terms of uniformity, as much as possible, we're trying to make that process transparent. And we're hoping to make the criteria for WP and WI courses so similar as to be interchangeable. Now, there are some differences. So, for example, GE courses don't have prerequisites. As by definition, you're a GE course, you should be able to get in. And the understanding of GE courses is because they're for any number of different majors, any number of students coming from different majors who might have different backgrounds. They might not engage in the same kinds of disciplinary thinking or the same kinds of discipline-specific genres or writing of genres that you might see in a majors course. But we can play with that. I mean, there's different kinds of ways, I think, in which science writing should be introduced to all students. And the nature of scientific inquiry, which Irene's going to talk about. The EM that was passed about the new GE model says, thou shalt have no more than 20. Since that time, the budgetary realities have just gotten more severe. People have started to take a look at that language. Now, the last thing that I think CAB wants to do is have an EM that we're immediately out of compliance with on this issue. So I think what they're going to try to do over the first couple of years, and I say I think because I'm not on that committee, but I've heard about the different kinds of ways they're talking about WI courses, is to try to encourage smaller course caps or alternative structures for delivering writing instruction. And to, in a kind of an ad hoc way, to look at each course individually and to really think about, well, how are you teaching writing? What are the kinds of things that you're doing? Is it sustainable given the kind of the workload involved and so on? And look at each one individually. This first year is going to be an experimental year. I mean, this is a new GE that's just getting off the ground. There are new courses that are just started, and the whole pathway system is beginning. With new students who are coming in for the first time or being asked to pick a pathway, right? And see their way through GE in that pathway. And so I think that this is an experimental year. They're not going to say you're disqualified because, frankly, there are too few WI courses as it stands right now. Pathway coordinators and other people on CAP can't afford to lose WI courses at this juncture. So I'd love to learn more about your course, and I hope that we have time to discuss it. Because it sounds a lot like what we're doing in English 130. So for example, we have a course that's, I think it's WI by default. If an academic writing course weren't WI, I don't know. Something would be wrong. We have 100 people in it, but we break out in mentor-led workshops of 10. 2 hours a week in the big group and 2 hours a week in the small group. And I think we reach the same kinds of course goals that one would in a course of 20, a course of 25, a course of 30. But in different kinds of ways. So they're very interested, and there's language in the EM about that as well, about alternative classroom structures, different designs for courses, face-to-face, hybrid courses, even online courses that might meet the same kinds of goals. So by no means should you think at all that you're automatically out of the running for WI. Let's go ahead and get started. The format is maybe 15, 20 minutes from each presenter, and then we'll have some time for questions, I think, throughout and then at the end as well. So I'll turn it over to Lee. Lee Altier.